Hello everyone and welcome back. We are back after a long summer and fall... Sorry, let me mute my phone. That was the Earthbound healing sound, by the way. That's what it does whenever I get a text.
Do you feel restored whenever you get a text message?
I do. Well, I guess it kind of depends on the text, but yeah, it's sort of a refreshing sound, I think. Very pleasant. So there's been a lot of stuff lately happening in the Smash community. That's kind of what we wanted to make a video today. We wanted to just kind of catch up on both what we've been playing and discussing Smash Brothers, because that's kind of the big thing right now, of course. And let's go ahead and just get started with the Smash talk. So Chris, we had a Direct. Let's start, first of all, before we get to the Grinch. We had a Direct back in August.
We did.
And in my opinion, this was really what sold me on the game. Prior to this, I was pretty excited for Smash Ultimate, but part of me was thinking, is everyone is here? Is that like the main hook? Like, are we not going to get many newcomers because we're getting Pichu and Young Link and stuff?
Right.
So and in a way, I was kind of like, well, it's cool that nobody got cut, but I don't know if it's enough to really sell me on the game. But when the August Direct rolled around, and they started with Castlevania content, and then they went on to all these different modes that they're adding to the multiplayer, and all these different features, and a huge amount of levels. I was really fully in by that point. I was like, okay, this is great. We got King K. Rool, who's been long requested. We got Simon Belmont. We got a bunch of Echo characters. We got a bunch of new modes. So and then the next month, of course, we got Isabelle, which it's a fine choice, I suppose. I always thought Nintendo was really pushing Isabelle hard back in the a few years ago, but I guess she's got a big fan base in Japan, and a second Animal Crossing rep makes enough sense. So I was like, okay, sure. Before I go further, Chris, what do you have anything to add on top of that with the August Direct and such?
Yeah, I kind of do. It's a little uncomfortable to talk about.
It's uncomfortable. Oh, you got my attention.
Matthew, I don't like to say this because it almost never happens, but I was wrong.
Ah, we got a mea culpa from Chris over here.
Yeah, I was overly cynical about this game. I thought it was just going to be Smash 4 polished up a little bit, with some new characters and a couple things here and there. But you know what? I was wrong, and it actually does look like it's Smash 5. It's a new game.
Well, it takes a big man to admit that, Chris. A big man with a big head. Sorry, I couldn't resist this shot.
Yeah, it was the August Direct, I think, that really made me realize that I was mistaken and should have given Nintendo a little more credit.
Okay, so not a port.
It's not a port. And considering that there have been many ports from Wii U to the Switch, I think it was a reasonable cynicism, but I've been impressed with what they've shown.
Okay, well, cool. That's good to hear. I'm wondering how close you are to changing your mind on that awesome mural that we've seen.
There's been no development on that front.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, Nintendo has been doing a good number of ports the past year, and even when Smash was first shown, with the Inkling and everything, I assumed it was a port of Smash 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see that they're putting a lot of effort into this game. I mean, it's going to be jam-packed with characters. And speaking of which, there has been a big divide in the Smash community lately, actually, over this Grinch leak. The Grinch has returned, yes. Now, there will be spoilers if you consider a leak to potentially be spoilers. I know some of you are avoiding this, but we are going to be discussing the characters in the leak. So if it's real and you want to avoid that, you might want to skip ahead to when we start talking about like Undertale and stuff later. Okay, so this leak, long story short, it was made in a French company, like a marketing company apparently. There's some background images, promotional images for the upcoming Grinch movie, alongside a circular piece of marketing material, like something that would go around something circular, featuring the full banner of Smash Brothers characters. Apparently this was taken on a Snapchat video initially. Someone took screenshots of it and pieced it together, so it's super blurry. But from this, we can make out the images of 7 characters. Shadow the Hedgehog, Ken from Street Fighter, Isaac from Golden Sun, Gino from Super Mario RPG, Banjo-Kazooie, the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Heaven, and Mach Rider from the NES and arcade games, Mach Rider. So, Chris, I don't know if you've really looked into this much or not, but right now, would you say you're on Team Real or Team Fake?
Seems real to me. They're all pretty reasonable additions. I like Probably most of them. Easily a couple of them will be, echoes.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty reliably true. I would be in team real. What about you?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards it being real, mainly because, well, a couple things. First of all, there's so much. It's not just an image leak. It's like something where people had to look into a bunch of background stuff and found all this information about this French company and this guy that apparently leaked it. It was really circuitous and convoluted if it was fake, like to an insane Moriarty level. Which I mean, if someone faked this, they have gotta really be on top of it. But there's a lot of little details in both the artwork, such as like a Ginny being in front of Isaac, and the chorus kids being all around the conductor from the Glee Club minigame, that I think a lot of leakers wouldn't consider, like a lot of fakers wouldn't consider putting in, because it's one extra thing to worry about.
Right.
Apparently Kazooie is reacting to Snake's rocket launcher, for instance. Little details like that feel kind of Sakurai-ish or Nintendo to me. But I mean, I'm not feeling 100% on it. I'm kind of like a 70%.
Yeah.
So there's still the very real chance it could be made up or not real. Some insiders are claiming it's only parts of it are real, which is a little odd to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of back and forth going on about this. But let's assume, for the sake of this discussion, that it is real. I just want to touch down real quick on the characters. I would personally be really excited for the Rhythm Heaven characters, because I love Rhythm Heaven, and I think it certainly deserves a series in Smash. And based off of the choice of character, I can see this being a really creative type of player, like Duck Hunt or something.
That's probably one of my top interests in terms of whether it's real or not. I would be on board with that.
Yeah, and Banjo-Kazooie is probably my favorite pick, just because
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that series, and it's been so long. It'd be great to see them come back. It actually like if they were in the game, it would make me dislike Cloud a little less, because then it would kind of be like, okay, we have sort of our mostly Sony rep, and now we have our mostly Microsoft rep, but they both kind of have ties to Nintendo a little bit. So,
a little bit. Banjo-Kazooie is a little bit tied to Nintendo.
Okay, Banjo-Kazooie is definitely more than Cloud, I'd say.
Yeah.
But he's currently owned by Microsoft, and it's kind of sad. Chris and I grew up with the rare of the Super NES and the N64 days when they were like buddy with Nintendo. They were the second party. So having Banjo-Kazooie kind of come home in that sense would be very nice. It would be very cool.
Yeah, I would say that Banjo-Kazooie is even more of a retro pick than Cloud, because even though they both had games when we were, kids, I don't think a lot of kids today know Banjo-Kazooie, because there was that one Xbox 360 game that nobody liked, and that was it. He hasn't been in anything else, right?
Not really. There was Banjo-Kazooie, there was the sequel Banjo-Tooie, which came out 2 years later on the 64, and there was Banjo Pilot, I think, for the Game Boy Advance. It was like a spin-off racing game. So Banjo, he was in a handful of games. Yeah. But only one on an Xbox system. The rather divisive Nuts and Bolts.
They did remaster, I think, the original and Tooie for Xbox, so you can get them in HD.
Yeah, that's true.
Which seems nice.
Yeah. I played a little bit on my brother's Xbox. It's pretty good, because they mainly improved the frame rate, and that was kind of an issue with Banjo-Tooie, because it had such large environments and a lot of things going on. Now, Gino and Isaac both have a large fan base. I'm not really as into them. Let me tell you what bugs me about Gino. Like in Mario's own RPG, he comes across this kid that's like, Gino's so much stronger than everyone else. Boom, boom, boom. He beats Bowser and he beats Mario, and then he kind of takes over the game, and that always rubbed me the wrong way. How this original character comes in, Square's original character comes in, and he's like way more better than Mario. It's like, come on, Square, why you got to do that? You got to be hating on Mario.
Well, Mario's still the hero, though. Mario's still did stuff.
But the Gino's has the higher purpose, when you get introduced to Gino, it's from this kid that is playing with his toys, and Mario gets beaten by Bowser, and then Gino comes in to save the day. So it's just I don't know. It kind of bugs me. It's like the original character comes in.
So what you're saying is Gino is the Poochie of Mario.
Yeah, he's a little bit of Poochie. Yeah, and at the end he had to go. His home planet needed him. Yeah. So. Anyway, he's back, if this leak is real. So, one kind of interesting detail is that he's very small on this thing, which actually makes a lot of sense. And because in Mario RPG he was Mario size, but if this roster is to be believed, he's going to be kind of a little bit more like Olimar in Smash size.
Yeah.
which would be kind of funny. Like some Geno fans have said they actually really like that interpretation.
I'm not opposed to Geno. I know he's had a lot of fans clamoring for him, but considering other characters I think that have been clamored for a lot as well, yeah, he's an okay inclusion.
What I really like about this roster, if this is real, is that all 5 of the newcomers, kind of including Geno, it kind of depends how they do it, but all 5 of them represent new series.
Yeah.
And I'm always a big fan of new series being represented in Smash. Not necessarily new as in like they haven't been around, but like new as in series that haven't been represented yet.
Right.
I'm all for variety. So yeah, so Mach Rider is from a pretty obscure NES game, and I think I could see this being a really cool character, especially if Mach Rider is always on the bike. Sort of like a Bowser Jr. thing. And there's still some like speculation on whether Mach Rider is actually a female or not, which would also be kind of neat, kind of a Samus thing again. Isaac seems to be using some sort of growth spell in the render, so if they have him using more magic than like just doing sword stuff, I think I'd be more interested in him in that case.
My initial impression would be that he's kind of Fire Emblem-y.
A little bit, yeah.
If he's just, hitting people with a sword, so...
We got a lot of sword guys.
More magic is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Ken, which, makes sense, sure.
Yeah, whatever.
And then there's Shadow. So Shadow, I don't know, man. I don't know. I know he's got his fans now. He's got a fan base, but I don't know about this guy. We just talked about Poochie.
Shadow is the Poochie of all Poochies.
I made that up Brawl in the Family comic 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Shadow being eaten by Kirby and turning into Poochie. So I guess that about says it for Shadow. Look, it's not just the Sonic thing. Like if they put in Tails as an Echo, I'd be way more on board with that.
Tails would be great, sure.
I like Tails, but I just don't like Shadow that much. But whatever, I'll take him if it means we're getting, Chorus Kids, Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, I would mind more if this was a roster the size of like Melee's, where it's just a couple dozen.
Right.
Then it would be a bigger deal. But there's like 1 million characters in this game, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
Since he's an Echo, I don't think it really took development time or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
By my count, if this is real, there would be 81 characters.
Wow.
That's a big roster. That's including that's counting the Mii fighters as 3 because they have 3 movesets, and it's counting Pokemon trainers 3.
Yeah, but this is only the start. I mean, even if this assumes that this is all of the launch characters, there's going to be DLC. There's going to be extra characters, I'm sure.
Probably.
Yeah. Which I think is a good thing. I welcome it.
Yeah, sure. All right, so Smash Ultimate should be good. Let's talk a little bit about what we've been playing lately. Chris, you go first. What Nintendo games have you been enjoying in the past few months?
Well, I recently played through 999, which I was very surprised by. You recommended it to me. You actually gave it to me for my birthday or something a while ago.
Yeah, we had the Bits section where I talked about the series.
Yeah, and it sounded interesting, but I really liked it. I think it's a well-told story. It's not too long, so it doesn't really overstay its welcome, and it has interesting characters. And the puzzles are pretty neat. There's a few downsides, like I think some of the writing is not so good, particularly when it's referencing something sexy or like the dialogue between a couple of the male and female characters is kind of bad. But like 90% of it's pretty good. I'm struck that a game like 999 is going to last longer in terms of having wider appeal to more people than a lot of other games. So, if you think of the DS, how many DS games were there? Like 600 or 1,000? I don't know.
There were a lot. Probably a 4-digit number.
I bet 950 of those are going to be basically forgotten by most people in the world, in the next, decade or whatever.
Because they'd probably get outdated in some form or another, right?
Right, because I think a lot of games are simply based around gameplay, right? So they're based around how you control the characters or the graphics and reaction time. And on a more primitive system like the DS or the Game Boy Advance, or look at the N64, games are more liable to be outdated because the next console is going to do it better. So on a game especially that doesn't really involve a lot of story elements, I think there's a lot more risk of that happening where, yeah, it was fun when it came out, but then a few years later, no one's going to play it again. And it'll just be remembered in a history book or by some, gaming historians who are able to chronicle, yes, this was a game that happened and it was a kind of a stepping stone between this game and that game, and etc. But I believe that storytelling is a huge element of art and of how humans have expressed art to each other throughout human history. And I think that storytelling in gaming is something that's still in its development as an art style. A lot of games don't tell stories very well, or they don't tell good stories. Even if they're fun to play, they might not really tell a story that a lot of people can connect with. I think the good thing about a good story is that a broad audience can connect to it. Take a movie or a TV show or a book or a play. A lot of people who don't have any particular expertise can sit down and enjoy it, generally. Pressing buttons, having to connect those buttons to what's happening on the screen, especially if there's a reaction time, that's actually a significant bar for people who don't play games. Like my mom, for example. Mm-hmm. She loves good movies and good stories. She reads all the time, but she can't get into games because the interface is something that she didn't grow up with. It's just much harder for her. Mm-hmm. Even though there might be a game where she might enjoy its story. She might enjoy the things that a game can do in terms of interactivity and storytelling that you can't get in any other medium. And I think 999 is a pretty good example of it. It's really a visual novel. So it doesn't have as much gameplay as like a Mario game where you're controlling your movement and there's a lot of leeway to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's more so a series of puzzles connected by story, and you make a few choices throughout the course of it. But that's all it needs to be, and for what it is, it's done very well. I think it's digestible and it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's actually the game where I would feel comfortable recommending it to a lot of people. Like my mom or something, someone who isn't a gamer, but nowadays people know how to touch a screen. They can tap a screen, they can, and there's a few sections where it might be a little confusing to, navigate through some environments or something, but it's pretty simple. So I think in a lot of ways it's a really good game, and I'd like to see more games like it. Is I guess my bottom line there. That's
an interesting dissection of why you tend to put more emphasis on storytelling in games than I think I do. I've always been kind of more gameplay oriented, but that's kind of a neat way of looking at it, in that you think that stories will age better than, like, say, something that has good gameplay in 1994 but may not in 2004 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Sarah also doesn't like timed reaction stuff. She kind of likes to take things at her own pace. And you had told me that your wife also enjoyed 999 a lot. Yeah. So you guys were able to enjoy it together. Yeah. And I feel that way about the Ace Attorney games as well. They do a good job of that. Right. Yeah, mostly focusing on characterization and storytelling, having some gameplay that's still interesting, but also, more cerebral and slower paced. So you've also started the sequel, Virtue's Last Reward. Yeah. Have y'all finished that, or are y'all like in the middle of that?
No, we're about in the middle of it. Ironically, we've spent probably almost twice as long playing this one compared to 999, and we're only halfway through it, which I think is kind of a problem, honestly.
Is it too long?
Yeah, it is. The first one, you finish it in about 18-20 hours or something, and it's got like basically six branches you go through, and the way that the story works, you get to a few bad endings and you're like, oh, what is going on here? And then it starts to reveal why there's these different endings and how they connect, and it's really neat, and you kind of it makes sense. It doesn't feel like a chore in terms of, oh, I gotta replay this whole game. The one thing I would change about it is letting you skip puzzles on the replays, but that's, once you know the answer, it doesn't take that long to do it again. I think with a game like this, less is more, and some games feel like more is more, and I'm not sure that's always the case. Take, like, say, Persona 5, for example. Persona 4 was already long enough, and it seems like Persona 5 just crammed it and stretched everything out. It's like, oh my god, you played this for like 1,000 hours to beat it.
This is pretty long.
Come on, so to experience the story in Persona 4 or 5, like, they put it into an anime, right? So you can watch the anime in a few hours, and you got the whole story.
That's true.
So to bring it back to Virtue's Last Reward, instead of 6 endings, they have like 30 or 27 or something.
Well, there's technically one ending for each character. Okay. But there's also game overs.
And to be continued.
Well, to be continued.
They're the locks are...
Well, yeah. Well, those aren't endings, though. Those are just...
Yeah, but it gets really convoluted. So basically what happens is there's a bunch of flows. As you go down one, you make choices, and then and eventually you either hit an ending or a lock. A lock means you can't progress past this point until you go down a different flow and learn something new that allows you to open that lock. And the frustrating thing is, you get through like 8 hours of gameplay, and then it says to be continued, and you're like, well, that's not very satisfying. So then you go down a different flow, you spend another 6 to 8 hours doing that, and it says, oh, to be continued, like, and then you do that several more times, and it gets a little faster because you don't have to go from the very beginning every time. But like, you're getting all these to be continues, and you're not getting any payoff for all your investment. And it's just this constant dangling of some kind of carrot where it's like, okay, eventually I'm gonna learn something, and then you learn a little something, and you're like, oh, okay, I learned something. Now I can go to this other flow, open that, and there's a lock right after it. That's just ridiculous.
I like it. I think it's like a story version of like a Zelda dungeon, but like each of the locks, you get a small key. But then when you backtrack, you don't actually have to go through what you've already done. You go through a new thing, a new hallway.
But it gets hard to keep track of because there's so many different flows. It's not like you have 4 or 5.
That's kind of true, but I think there's a lot of consistencies. Like pretty much everything you learn besides like the occasional character death is pretty much canon. Like whenever you learn a character's history, or whenever you learn the history of the world going on, or whatever, that all kind of ties in. So it's sort of like you're sort of piecing together this story puzzle. Oh man, I just liked it so much. Just talking about it makes me want to go play it again.
Well, I do like that aspect of it.
And all those locks.
I mean, I like the aspect of piecing together the story gradually. I like that a lot about 999, but in this one, some of the things don't feel canon. For example, the AB rooms where people vote ally or betray. At first, it seemed like completely random how they would vote. Like it's pretty much however you vote, they're gonna vote against you to screw you over. Or like you try to figure out, okay, getting to know the characters, can't I predict how these characters will vote? But you can't really, which is frustrating because it seems like it's just random and there's no story reason behind how they vote. Is that true?
There's one character who pretty much always allies.
Right.
And there's one character who pretty much always betrays.
Right.
The rest of them, you'll usually get some sort of explanation for them afterward about why they pick betray. If they pick betray, they'll be like, oh, but someone's running around killing people and I gotta protect, my grandson or whatever. They'll say something like that. Where it's like it's still consistent with the character, I think.
I've felt it's a little bit of a stretch so far. We haven't beaten the game, but that's what we were trying to do is figure out, okay, what is this character likely to do? And they'll have allied like 3 times in a row on the previous ones. So we're like, okay, they'll probably ally here because that's who they seem like they are, and there hasn't been an event that we can tell would make them want to betray. But then they betray, and they're like, well, what are you, stupid? Of course you gotta betray. It's like, come on.
I guess I'd have to go back and look at like specific examples. There's like 1 or 2 moments where a character will pick the opposite of you either way, and then Sigma will call them out on it, and there's a story purpose behind that. But from what I remember, for the most part, in round 2 of the game against this character, they're gonna pick this regardless of what you pick, kind of thing.
It's still an interesting game, and we're enjoying it, but I think the dialogue is more cringy than the first. I think the intention of these sequences is a combination of humor and sexual appeal, and it's shallow and not well written, I don't think. I enjoy a lot of the writing. I think most of the character development is good. I like all the characters, really. Well, I like most of the characters. I haven't seen enough development of a couple to really know yet. So my complaint is not, oh, they sexualize women. Like, yeah, sex is part of life, and sexualization is a perfectly legitimate part of storytelling. In the sequences in this game that it's used, it is a throwaway segment that does not really build character and is more of an objectifying base appeal rather than something that has any extra layers to it. I find it dull and that it undercuts the depth of the rest of the story.
Okay. See, I had that problem more with 999.
Yeah, it happened a few times in that game too, for sure.
For whatever reason, whenever they went to this well in Virtue's Last Reward, it usually worked for me more than it did in 999.
Huh, okay.
And I'm not really sure why, but I'm just remembering like in 999 when like Akane and Junpei, they're like searching the cabin and they find a bed, because it's a cabin. Yeah. And they both start blushing and falling over themselves, It's
right.
like, oh, it's a bed. Oh, it's like, what? It's a bed. Come on.
Yeah, I agree.
A bed is sexual? I mean, I know stuff can happen in the bed, whatever. But a bed is such a ubiquitous item, Yeah. It's like going crazy if you see lipstick. Oh, it's lipstick. Oh, I don't know. It just seemed really silly to me.
That's a good example of my problem because it's an approach to sexuality that is very juvenile. Like it's like what a 10-year-old might think of sex.
Okay, maybe the main thing I disagree with is I don't really mind the outlandish outfits. I don't know. It's just kind of like a anime Japanese thing to have kind of bosomy women, running around.
Completely naked except for a necklace?
Well, it's kind of dumb, but it's like... it's dumb and it's impractical, but it's like, if I listed my complaints with Virtue's Last Reward, this would be like just one of those things where I kind of shrug or kind of chuckle at for like a second and then move on, It's like, it doesn't really seem like much of a big deal.
It just seems like it cheapens the characters, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of weird outfits, right? Like Dio's in a ringleader's outfit. That's pretty outlandish.
Yeah, I didn't like his design either.
I mean, but you wouldn't say Dio's ringleader outfit is a big problem, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's kind of down there on
the way his character is designed, I would say is a problem because it seems very out of touch with who he is as a character. He looks like an effeminate kind of like dancer or something, and all of his animations are not nearly as aggressive and rude as he is. So the way he looks, I actually really don't like at all.
So you think his character design doesn't really fit?
Yeah, and when they explain like he works for a circus or something, then it's like, oh, okay, I guess the circus garb kind of makes sense, but I still don't think it explains his overall aesthetic design, which I'm not a fan of.
Okay, I think that's a fair complaint.
I would say that the two complaints are kind of similar, just in aesthetics. Like, they don't explain why these characters are running around naked. Like, if they said, oh, well, they abducted Clover from a beach, maybe I could get that, fine. I don't know, but like nobody dresses like Alice, and
yeah, Alice's outfit is pretty funny.
Too much.
I mean, it's pretty weird.
And I think overall, though, the art design is more anime-ish than 999. I liked 999's character designs more, just aesthetically.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's move on to what I've been playing.
Yeah.
So, folks, everybody's been telling me to play Undertale, and I kept putting it off. You know, because I wanted to play it on a Nintendo system and not on a smelly old computer, because as we all know from the Bit Fight, I prefer consoles. And
you were turned off by everyone comparing it to Earthbound.
I wasn't turned off by people comparing it to Earthbound. I was intrigued, you know, it's made by an Earthbound fan. So, yeah, it came to Switch, and I got it the day it came out. I was like, okay, let's see what all this is about. So, overall, I liked it.
That's a conditional statement.
Chris, I know you can't relate to this, but you ever have a feeling that when someone tells you a game is really, really, really good and you gotta play it, and you just play it and you want to really like it, but you only kind of like it? Like, you've never experienced that at all, right?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I mean, I can try to imagine what that feels like.
It's a totally foreign concept to Chris.
Yeah.
Because he loves every one of the games I recommend to him.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'm driving this home a little too subtly here. Okay, so Undertale. There's a lot I like about this game. The soundtrack is very good. I think the best thing about it is that it continually surprises the player. It's got a lot of surprises in it. Like almost every room has some new little joke or some kind of extra bit of mechanic or some funny little sequence. You know, you'll go to a sad, just to pull one example out of dozens, you go to like a sad ghost house and he's like, let's lie on the floor together. And you know, you just kind of chill with him and listen to his weird spooky music, which is like ghost versions of like Jingle Bells or something. And then if you go outside while these are playing and fight an enemy, they'll react to the music playing. They're like, oh, this music's creeping me out. And then they'll leave the battle. You know, just little things like that are funny little scripted events that are just like, oh, that was kind of fun. You know, just this weird little surprising thing. I think the game has a lot of heart put into it in that way. I feel like the creator really wanted to emphasize the personality of the game and the humor and stuff involved. It's very clever in a lot of ways. There's some fourth wall kind of poking. I don't know who hasn't played this and is still planning on it that hasn't played it yet. I'm gonna get into slightly spoiler territory, not really, but you know, a little bit. Early on in the game, you meet this matronly character, Toriel, which I later learned is called that because it's kind of a tutorial. But she gets kind of obsessive about the main character and tries to take care of him and everything. And so when you try to leave to go to the outside world, she blocks you and she says, no, you gotta go back to my house and you know, we can just take care of you and you're not gonna die or whatever. And you basically have to fight your way through her. And I was thinking, okay, I want to spare this character because you can spare monsters and you can kill them. So I kept fighting her until, well, first I tried to do some other things and they weren't working. So I decided, okay, I'm going to fight her until her life gets low, and then I'm going to spare her. So I kept fighting her and her life was kind of low, and then I fought her again and it did this huge critical hit and she died, right? Oh. And I was like, oh no, I killed her. And then I went back and, you know, I went past her and the flower laughed at me for killing her. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. So I reset. I did the battle again. I figured out how to spare her, right? So I spared her then, and I went to the next room, and the flower was like, I know what you actually did. You actually killed her and reset. And I was like, you stupid game. How do you know that? So it does stuff like this where it's like, it's kind of one step ahead of the player, you know? They expect the player to reset in this case, which I did, and then they pointed out that I reset, which is kind of fun. I guess it involves 2 different levels of save. Like, you have to kind of save one state and kind of have a backup save. I don't know exactly how it's done, but it does a few things like that. It does that a lot during the last battle. It kind of plays around with some of these ideas. So all of that stuff I really liked. But here's the problem. In Earthbound, I really felt like I was on a big quest. I felt like I was... The most appealing part of an RPG to me is that feeling of growth and going on a huge adventure and getting more powerful as you progress. I don't really get that from Undertale. I know part of the game's concept is in pacifism and in not killing things, which I think is cool. It's a cool theme, and they follow through with it well. I played through the game twice, once killing a couple things and once not killing anything, which is called a pacifist run. So I feel like I've experienced a good portion of it, you know, most of it. And in both runs, I felt that the RPG elements were kind of weak. Like, the battle system itself, if you're killing stuff, you really only have one attack. You have the basic attack, and you kind of time it. And if you're not killing stuff, you kind of poke through a few menus and try to decide which is the best way to spare the enemy. And sometimes this is kind of trial and error, you know? It's sort of like picking from menus, and like, if you're investigating someone in Phoenix Wright, you're kind of like, what do I ask them first? I don't know, just try this. So there's kind of a lot of that. So the battle system itself, if you're trying to kill stuff, it's very, very shallow. If you're not trying to kill stuff, it's a little trial and error, but it kind of is clever because they pepper it with some humor. And probably the best thing about the battle system is the way you dodge attacks. It kind of turns into a shmup, where you're this little floating heart and you're avoiding things. And they do a lot of clever things with this idea. Like, every enemy has their own attack patterns, and sometimes the attacks are shaped like the enemy or some projectile they'll use. Like, you're fighting the dog guard, and you have to dodge this little pixelated esky, you know, on the bottom, which is cute. But by and large, there's very little strategy involved, which kind of left me wanting. And when you combine that with sort of maybe my biggest complaint about the game, it's very, very linear and very small. So I never really got that sprawling adventure feel. It almost felt like I was going through one large dungeon. It was just a little claustrophobic for me. I kind of missed that grandiose feeling of adventure, and I missed that level of strategy and progression that you get from other RPGs. I don't know if I should compare it to other RPGs, because it's very much like an RPG light kind of thing. It's almost like a mishmash of genres. Like, at times it feels more like an old adventure game like King's Quest or something than an RPG. But at the same time, you know, I'm running into enemies, you know, I'm fighting random battles and stuff. And for the most part, these battles aren't terribly interesting. You know, it's either do the one attack or choose from, you know, a preset list of actions, you know, and see what works. So that's kind of my thoughts overall. I definitely enjoyed the game overall. I mean, I thought it was really memorable. The story is pretty good. I didn't fall in love with it exactly. There's some emotional moments at the end of the pacifist run that just did not quite click with me. There's not really enough development of some of the major players of the game that it didn't really hit me on the same level. And I know if we're comparing this to Earthbound, like, Earthbound is kind of a minimalist game when it comes to a specific type of storytelling as well. But it just worked better for me in Earthbound. I felt like I really got to know the environments really well. Like, the world felt fully fleshed out. It felt, you know, just... I think if there was more to Undertale, like, it took me about 5 hours, where Earthbound takes me, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 hours. I liked the NPCs in it. I liked the main characters for the most part. But the world just felt pretty small. I couldn't quite get lost in it the way I wanted to. And there's one major character I just didn't like very much at all. There's a kind of a nerdy dinosaur character called Alphys, and she just feels too on the nose. Like, she feels really internety, if that makes sense. Like, kind of a modern sense of humor to her, and some of her in-game actions make her slightly villainous, but I feel like we're supposed to really, like, that's not a spoiler, by the way. She's not like a backstabbing character or anything, whatever. I just think she has some kind of nebulous motives that kind of make me not like her, but the game wants me to like her regardless, which kind of threw me off a little bit. I just didn't really like that character very much. But overall, It was a good game. I would recommend it for anyone that wants to try like something a little fresh, a little new, and it's very funny at a lot of points. So,
how's the music?
And a good soundtrack.
Oh,
yeah, music's good. Music's very good. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Undertale. I played it twice. Played it once, like I said, did one pacifist run, one just kind of regular run. I probably won't go through the genocide thing where you got to kill everyone because I don't know. It doesn't sound very appealing either from a story perspective or from a gameplay perspective. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Chris, you played a little bit of this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I largely agree with everything you said. I only played it for maybe an hour or so. It's like a short story, right? Mm-hmm. It seems like it's the kind of thing where, okay, it's a relatively short experience, but every step of it is fairly memorable or unique.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of unique little events that happen in succession. It's not a big open world to go exploring. You don't really get lost. You don't really have to grind things or anything like that. I get the vibe that it's a pretty widely appealing game. Like I was saying about 999, where except it has more gameplay elements. So it's more, there's more real-time stuff where you have to, dodge the attacks when you're trying to win the battles and stuff. Yeah, I really don't disagree with you on anything, though. I do agree the battle system does seem shallow. The music's good. I like that there are different ways to accomplish things. Like when you're saying when Toriel's trying to prevent you from leaving, figuring out how to get past her, it's kind of cool. So if the game is filled with little moments like that, yeah, I think it's a cool game.
Yeah, I think the bosses in general are pretty well done when it comes to that. I guess I had more of an issue with like the little random encounters for the most part.
Yeah, that does seem like an odd choice.
This is kind of a nitpick, honestly, but I think what would kind of help with that whole idea is if this game had Chrono Trigger style encounters where they were out in the overworld, they jumped behind a bush or something.
Yeah.
And you just fight that one enemy. And it would kind of lend further credence to every enemy being its own unique being rather than fighting several Froggets in one dungeon or something.
Yes, I agree with that. The random battles don't serve it well, especially and since it's such a short game, I think it also would have been not too difficult to have every enemy be an intentional enemy, and with maybe a slightly unique twist, even if there's a few different Froggets, having a little twist in each one of them.
Yeah,
as minor as that may be. There's not a lot of games where we agree like 100%, but I think I pretty much agree with everything you've said on that.
Okay,
so,
well, you're still early on as well, though.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see how you feel. I want to quickly touch down on just a couple other things I've been playing. The Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle came out last month. That was fun. I liked it. There's 7 beat 'em ups. They don't have a whole lot of replay, but they're pretty enjoyable.
Did they fix the online though?
I think so. I haven't gone back to check. I did hear you could make it to where your lobby doesn't accept more people coming in.
Oh. Which
would fix it. When I played it, it played well with 2 players, but got really laggy with 3. So hopefully they iron that out. But overall, this is a fun set of games if you're in, if you want some beat 'em ups and you have someone to play with. I would recommend, couch co-op for this.
And there's a few of them that haven't been released in America, right?
That's true. The last 2, which are probably my favorite 2, because they just get progressively crazier. There's Battle Circuit, which is the last one, which is just nuts, and Armored Warriors, which is this really cool like mech-based one, where you're picking up enemies' arms and you get new weapons, kind of like Kirby, like you beat an enemy and it drops like an electric arm, and now you have an electric attack. Yeah. They're pretty cool. My sister-in-law and wife really got into these games too, because at first I was disappointed you have infinite continues, but when you're just kind of casually playing these, it's kind of fun to just fight your way through waves and not worry too much. It really made it appealing for Sarah, who usually doesn't get into actiony games like this.
Yeah.
She just really likes smacking stuff. So those are fun. I've also played through Mega Man 11. Mega Man is back, you guys.
In 3D form.
In 3D form, that's right. Remember Mega Man? Yeah, so this game came out 8 years after Mega Man 10, I believe.
Wow.
So put that in perspective. Prodigal Robot. Remember when I made that video for Brawl in the Family, where Mega Man, his last game was Mega Man 10, and this was like 2 years later? That was like 5 years ago. So I gotta say, I really like Mega Man 11. I was kind of tempering my expectations because I was like, it looks a little funny, like it's sort of that 2.5D look where it's not quite as charming as the sprite-based thing.
A little lifeless in some way.
A little bit, yeah. But it's done super well. Like, the level design is extremely good. The controls are extremely good. With there's like one minor little nitpick I have with the controls. I'm not even gonna get into it, but they're really really responsive. The level design is nice and long. The backgrounds, I've really come to enjoy actually the art style. Some of the backgrounds are really nice. Like they really give you a good sense of place. When you're fighting Blast Man, you see like this destroyed roller coaster and Ferris wheel in the background. And later when you're refighting all the bosses, they have these big wily gears in the back, except and they're turning, you know. Except when you fight Tundra Man, where they're frozen and they're not turning. And when you fight Blast Man, they're all like busted up and on the ground. So I like little details like that. And the set of Robot Masters, they're all really good. The Robot Master weapons are extremely good. Like, they're super fun to use. There's these adjustments to the controls that I really like. How you can choose your secondary weapon with the right stick, which is a great addition. What else can you... Oh, you can summon Rush with a press of a button, which is really nice. Just everything really clicked for me with this game. Even the soundtrack, which I didn't really like initially... There's like this is kind of a weird thing, because they had this pre-order at Best Buy or GameStop or wherever. Pre-order from select retailers where you get a digital code for a version of the soundtrack that's just piano and violin. Oh. And I like it a lot. Like, it's really, really good. It doesn't sound very Mega Man-y, but it's really enjoyable. But you can only get that from pre-ordering it. And the regular soundtrack I don't like that much, because it's all techno-y and dancey and doesn't really fit. Yeah, so it's kind of hard for me to even rate the soundtrack. But I put on this alternate soundtrack that I really enjoy. So I got it, but most people will not have it.
That's dumb.
It is dumb.
Pre-orders suck.
It's very dumb.
Don't pre-order. Don't reward this bad behavior by companies.
Well, see, I wanted the thing, though. I didn't want to support it, but I wanted the thing, because now I'm enjoying the game more, because I have the music that I like. I agree that I don't like in-game pre-order bonuses. I think that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, give like an art book or like a little, plush doll or something, like a physical thing, sure, but...
Physical thing. Or have something that you can unlock in the game through normal means, But the game also has a bunch of different challenges. I was on the leaderboards for a while, mainly when it first came out and there were hardly anyone out there. But I played like the Balloon Rush game. I mean, the balloon... There's a balloon rush thing where you have to jump through a level and hit all the blue balloons and avoid the red balloons, or you get a time penalty. And there's just a lot of really fun modes like this, like time trial modes, online leaderboards and stuff. It's a pretty short game overall. There's not really much in terms of big surprises. It doesn't really reinvent the genre. Yeah. But I would actually compare it to the Wii Punch-Out in terms of taking a classic approach and knowing what to tweak and what to not mess with. And basically being, in some cases, like a safe sequel, but in other cases, it really refines the gameplay to a strong degree.
Did they add some Mega Man X mechanics, like you can dash, I think?
Not really. One of the boss master moves is a dash. So it's a dash through enemies, or you can air dash. But overall, yeah, I really like Mega Man 11. It's I'm a big Mega Man fan, and I'd put it pretty high. Below 9, 2, 3, and maybe 1. I'll kind of put it on par with 1. And I like 1 a lot. So.
Wow. So was it as good as or worse than Mighty Number 9?
A little bit worse. No. It was quite a bit better. I don't know what happened here. This is a weird story, You had Mighty Number 9 done by Inafune. You had Mega Man 11 done by not Inafune. But I think Mega Man 11 is... I mean, most people agree that it's significantly better than Mighty Number 9. Even if not everyone agrees with my assessment of it, a lot of people I noticed a lot of older gamers that grew up with Mega Man or really like focused on the tightness of the gameplay and stuff really enjoy this one. So, it's my full recommendation.
Great, yeah, I'm gonna check that out. I haven't played it yet, but I've watched some gameplay of it and it looks really good.
Yep, I really enjoyed it. And I ended up, the art style kind of grew on me because of the character design. I feel they really captured the large robotic eyes on things and stuff. Like they didn't make it look all like dumb and kind of pseudo realistic, just floating robots that have no personality kind of thing.
Right.
Like there's a lot of charm to it. It's good to have Mega Man back too. He's been gone for too long.
Yeah, for a while it seemed like Capcom was trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, it was really weird, but I'll be maining him also in Smash Brothers. So that brings us full circle, I suppose. It all comes back to the Smash.
So in conclusion, I was wrong, and I don't like that. But the game looks good, so
It's okay, Chris. You don't need to keep beating up yourself over that. It's
Wait, was I wrong about something else? I feel like some of the comments from the previous videos were saying I was wrong about something else, but I don't remember if I was.
It might have been the artwork, because the artwork is great.
Ugh, no, I was right about
Look
that.
at Ness. Look at Fox. Look at Pikachu.
I will look at none of them.
Look at the footage. Do you remember that? Leave a comment if you remember Cowboy Jed. Looking at the footage. It's great. I love that.
Would that commercial have been even better if it was voiced by Jim Varney?
Oh man, everything would be better if it was voiced by Jim Varney. Everything.
Yeah, for Halloween, go watch Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yes, there we go. Good closing line. Bye.
So this Grinch stuff, what do you think about Grinch getting added to the Smash?
Oh, I think it's great. He's clearly the most beloved newcomer of all.
But is he really the best representative for Dr. Seuss? I mean, there's
there's Cat in the Hat. Yeah, see, we both thought of Cat in the Hat right away.
Yeah, there's the Sneetches.
Sam I Am.
Yeah, there's the Pop.
The Pop? Oh, that you hop on?
Yes.
I think Pop would be an item that you can hop on. I think the Sneetches should be an assist trophy, and they would hit you with their ridiculous racism.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
But the Grinch could have the bad banana with a greasy black peel, and he could have the termites in his smile.
So would his final smash involve the dog and the sleigh, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe like he's dumping all the toys off the mountain for Whoville.
Yeah.
I think his 39.5-foot pole would be overpowered, though.
That's a side smash. It goes across the whole stage.
Whoa.
Well, I'm glad to see they're branching out into non-game properties.
Sure. Maybe Goku is next. Goku, yeah! Look at the goat. Look at the footage. Look at the jumping chicken. Look at the footage. It's so much footage. It's like it was made just for me. Go watch Ernest Scared Stupid.